Welcome to Between the Reads, a podcast about Black books. I'm your host, Audra Russell. Welcome to Season 3. There are so many great new things happening this year with the podcast, and I can't do it without your support. So please consider heading over to patreon.com/betweenthereads to join. Are you ready, Boos and Bros? Then sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Tracie Angela Greene's first book was published at age 6 for the school library, a paranormal thriller, The Halloween Witch. Years later, Tracie became editor for her high school yearbook. While earning her BFA at Pratt Institute in New York, she wrote for a couple of beauty magazines and interned at Essence. After graduating, Tracie was an associate editor for Black Elegance, aka BE, and there several of her articles were published. Fast forward back home in Atlanta, and 20 plus years later, she started formulating ideas for the novel she yearned to read. A new job with an ideal work schedule allowed her time to let her imagination flow and complete her debut novel, Enisi, the Bleu Realm. Tracie, welcome to Between the Reads. Good, I'm glad to have you here. And did I say it right, Enisi, the Bleu Realm?
Yes, Enisi, the Bleu Realm, exactly.
Okay, great. So let's get right to this book. Tell us what it's all about.
Okay, so I'm going to read it because it's taken me a long time to get this blurb, like years. So bear with me. From the 1800s to the 1980s, the story follows the Blues family existence with their highly intelligent family tree, Enisi, who is much more than he appears to be. For one thing, he dabbles in the genetics of others. And over a century after Enisi sprouts, he's most beloved by Gen Xer Rhea Blue. They share a powerful bond that stems from Rhea's ancestor. Rhea has no problems with Enisi meddling in the genetics of others until she learns all that others includes.
Yes. And this book was quite the story. I loved everything about it. I really did. You did a great job with it.
Happy to hear that.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
Oh, well, good. I really loved it. So in the back of the book,
yes, ma'am,
you stated that aspects of your life inspired elements of your novel.
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
Well, for one thing, where I grew up at, my parents' backyard is a temperate forest. And so we moved there in the 3rd grade. And I just took to the forest, those woods, like I had no issues. We moved from Florida where we just had a little tiny backyard and a little tiny front yard, surrounded by other homes. And so our new home had woods for the backyard. And I just took those woods. I wasn't afraid at all. So exploring the woods. And then one of the coolest things that happened as I got older, when I was in college, I was in the library. I worked in the library. And I was in the archives flipping through old ebony magazines. And in one of the magazines, up pops this article about my father, who, when he was at Morehouse, and nobody in the family knew about this article. My father completely forgot about it. So there it is. I'm in the library finding out there's pictures of my dad, my uncles on the swim team at Morehouse. And so that influenced me. And some of that influenced some of the mystical or some of the unique moments of the book. And so my family tree, my ancestors, there's everybody in my family, but very motivated, but from all levels. So
yeah, I can see the parallel between you discovering that article and that scene at the library.
This can happen. Even though this is a fantasy, I want you to know this can happen in real life.
Right. Yes, absolutely. When I read that, I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yes.
So Now, you call your novel science fantasy.
Yes.
And you do a unique job of tying together plant life and crystals and human life and the land all together.
Yes.
Tell us how you came up with the combinations of things that you did in the story.
It just kind of grew. Originally when I first was thinking I'm going to write a story, it kind of started with one of the characters that comes up at the end of the story. That's where it started. But when I began to, dig into the background of this person, I was like, you know what, this person has to have a solid, strong family. And so that's the family aspect. And then I garden, I'm a big gardener. And so out in my garden, when I really started growing my garden and I had some time off from work, I was off from work for about a year and a half. And that's when I really started getting into that garden every day and feeling that soil in my hand and just noticing everything around me. And to me, it was just like, it was mystical, just, watching the plants grow from a seed and it's watching the fern unroll, just all, and then all the insects and the birds and just all this. There's so much magic in the garden. So that really inspired me. And then I traveled to Asheville. That's one of my favorite places to go, the city of Asheville in North Carolina. And they have a lot of Cherokee heritage there. So I went to the nearby city of Cherokee and began to explore Cherokee heritage and plays and books. And then I had some kind of way, ended up watching some kind of documentary about the Trail of Tears. And then, then all of a sudden your mind just pulls it all together. Next thing you know, you're writing a story. Next thing you know, you're pulling from everywhere. All your experiences, you're pulling them into your story. And then I just let them flow. I just let the ideas flow.
Now I understand the mom going to Asheville and all of that.
Asheville is one of my favorite places. But yeah.
Okay. So now let's talk about Enisi, the book's namesake. I just love his personality and, the way he expresses himself when he's happy, when he's annoyed. Just where did he come from?
That is so cool that you like Enisi.
I love Enisi. I love the way he made the branch crash on the guy that came by, and he was like, "Whoa!" Like, yeah, get him, Enisi.
Like, that's for my people. That's
right.
Pretty much. Enisi, I fell in love with my walks in the woods and my travels. I fell in love with these giant, beautiful trees. And I was like, you know what? There's more to the planted kingdom than just soothing people. The planted kingdom is its own kingdom, and it's just as significant as our kingdom is. And so, so then I kind of grew. I grew from there. I was like, I want this character to be like, hey, the trees, whatever I am, we're not here just to please and soothe people. When you come walking in the woods or you want to bury notes in our trunk and this, we're not here just to soothe you. We're here we're on purpose too. We're on point too. We're in God's favor too. And so that's kind of Enisi's personality. He's like, and I'm superior.
Right.
Don't ever forget.
He's like, y'all are so primitive.
And I know, I'm, he's really all over the place through his root system, but Enisi's like, and I'm superior. So.
He is. He reminds me of, my grandmother used to have a farm in Minnesota. And this woman never went to the store for anything except butter, salt, and pepper and spices. Like she grew her own food. She was very self-sufficient. And we used to go for little walks on the farm. And she would always tell me, every cure for every ailment that you have is in this land. I don't know why Enisi just reminded me of I had forgotten about that conversation until I started reading your book and Enisi and the way he, everything was in the land and, he knew that he could just search, his roots and find what he needed. And I think that's why I love him so much, because it just brought back that memory.
And I heard that as well. I've read that every single thing is in the land. Like, really, you scratch yourself or you need something for the wound, you're on the land, you can find something, So I've heard that as well. And I researched that. That was a part of my research.
I figured, when I was reading, I was like, I'm getting I was writing down things, I'm getting a whole lesson here.
I hope I didn't do too much of a info dump, but especially with the crystals, I was like, if somebody wants to go and buy this crystal, though, I do kind of want there to be a little realism with these crystals. So you can have this magic in your life,
Right. It's a whole education. I was writing something. I'm like, oh, okay, let me get it. My book, it's all got all these tabs on almost like every other page and highlights everywhere. It was a whole experience.
I put the crystals, I put them in the glossary just in case somebody needs to flip back there. But I've been told by my friends, I've been told by people in my reading group, I was like, did y'all use the glossary? That's cheating. We don't use the glossary. I was like, oh, okay.
I read it after. I was like, oh, look, okay.
But I'm not going to that while I'm reading. I was like, oh, okay.
No, it takes you out of the story. You just gotta read and get that later.
Okay, that's what I learned. They were like, hey, we don't use the glossary, ma'am. We're intelligent.
No. No, that'll pull you out the story because you got to stop, put your bookmark in, and go to the back. No, ma'am, we're not doing that.
I learned that, though. That just tickled me so pink because it was a suggestion from my critique group that maybe you should put a glossary. And so I was like, okay. And then when I got to my readers, they were like, what? Girl, no, we're not going to look at that.
No.
Maybe
I might look at it after and be like, oh, okay. You're not going to do it during the story. No, ma'am.
So funny to me.
So now there are themes in this book of knowing your ancestry, the importance of ties to the land. And the book is rooted heavily in African and Cherokee heritage.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's discuss why you felt it was important to include these aspects in your book.
Well, I wanted, the blues in Rhea's personality and the personality of the characters, but particularly the Blue family. They're a strong family, and I wanted the reader to know why. They happen to know their heritage. And, not all of us can go all the way back that far. But to know that our ancestor definitely came over as a slave, and then to know, we're always talking about as African Americans that we're always being told, you got Indian in your blood, we got Indian in our blood. So I was like, I'm going to make sure to show how this family came to say that, or came to know, even though the Cherokee in there, it's not quite the same bloodline as the African, but it does show you how this Cherokee heritage is very much a part of their family. And so that's kind of how and then of course the African heritage that I chose is just through my experiences as an African dancer. I was introduced to many, many years ago, the Yoruba culture. And so I've always been very interested in that and done research on that. And so I knew that was going to be, I was going to tie that in as the African heritage.
Okay.
And so I had to do a little research to make sure I got it right. But
right. Research is always key when you're writing those books.
I didn't want that part to be, the more things that you have real adds to the fantasy element. I want people going, is that real? Wait, is that? Really? So
yeah, because I was looking up stuff like, wait a minute, is that okay? Yeah, absolutely. So now the book takes place in Georgia, where there is a lot of turbulent history as far as Black people go, and going back to the times of slavery and the founding of this country. Yeah. But the Blues live in, and help me pronounce it, Woodleave? Is that?
Woodagee. The land that they found.
Woodagee. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the land that they live on is not steeped in violence at all, but it's steeped in magic and mysticism, where Rhea and Shay are free to roam and explore, just like their ancestors were able to.
Right.
Why was it important to put the South in this light?
Because I wanted people to see, a different perspective of the South. So, that it isn't all about the enslaved. Mm-hmm. So I wanted, and growing up in the South, particularly in the 80s, in my little Southern neighborhood, now that I'm older, I realize how unique it was. But we were in this very unique community, our school, where it was about 40-60, 60% Black and 40% white, and I watched it grow. And we got into the school under the majority minority program at the time, but you didn't have to go 500 miles across. The school was 2 miles away, and so we lived in this world where we were not bombarded with racism. In our school, the Black and the white kids, we were all being miseducated together. Particularly about our history. We were all miseducated together. And so I kind of wanted people to get another side, but we were all about what was going on in the greater culture, in the American culture, the music, the clothes. We were all about the trends, the movies, and I think pop music had a lot, because that kind of pop music at the time kind of brought us all together. Music can bring you together. So we were all about those trends. So I'm always curious, like in the book, like who are my readers going to think is white, or who are they going to think is Black? Like I purposely didn't tell, except when I just couldn't have any mistake about it. And I was like, okay, no mistake about this person, you need to know. And I always thought, I was like, I'm always, interested in what color they think that person is. But as I got older, that's when I began to realize that was unique. And we don't really have that kind of a school anymore in that area where I grew up at. All of our schools on this part of town, and not that I have a problem with it whatsoever, but they're predominantly Black now, and they have a way of they got rid of the majority minority program, and they have what they call magnet schools. And so you can go to any school in the county, but you do have to, where my nephew went was a very diverse high school, and he did have to get on a bus and go miles and miles away. Not like he could really, without planning and whatnot, do and be a part of the community.
So since the book takes place in the 1800s and then in the 1980s, is your experience in your community why you chose to put the current day setting in the 1980s?
Yes, but we're going to go forward from that. But yes, that's where I decided that this book would end in the 1980s.
Okay. And, we're going back to Woodgive. We have to talk about that just a little bit. It's just this magical world. It's it's their land, but it's kind of hidden behind the forest. Right. And Enisi, who is the tree, this grand tree, but he's really more than that. He's also he's a spirit. He goes through and he just kind of creates these beautiful, plants and bugs, and he experiments with genetics and just creates this beautiful, lush, tropical forest. So I'm assuming that you did that because of the forest that you grew up looking into in your backyard.
Yes, exactly. that was because of that. And then, of course, I visit many forests around the world. And so I wanted to, he has the ability to bring the best of whatever into that climate. So, in the valley of Woodagee, where the girls have, hang out and whatnot, and where one of the major gardens is, that's kind of tropical. You wouldn't really be able to have a garden like that in Georgia,
right?
Because it's tropical. But in Woodagee, you can.
In Woodagee, anything is possible.
Right.
He's got all kinds of stuff growing in Woodagee that would not grow normally in that area of the country, and that's.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I could just imagine it, just the beauty of it and the magic of it, and how he's got there's the one bush, Agalia, is that how you say her name? Agaliha. And there's a little secret I'm not going to reveal about Agaliha that you all have to read the book to find out, but it's so magical is an understatement for what the valley is. It's just so, it's like its own world. And I could understand why Rhea doesn't want to leave.
To me, the valley, but I was like, the valley's supernatural. But then I was like, oh, supernatural means something else. It can mean like haunted or, but if you take the true definition of the word super and the word natural, then to me it's like this supernatural, because magical is not, like you said, magical is not quite it, but it's it's nature beyond and above.
Yeah, it's nature like times 1,000, like on steroids.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Now you have people like Rhea who are greensouls in this book. Tell our readers what a greensoul is. Okay,
so you have the greensouls and the gifted greensouls. So a greensoul is an individual that the perianima, and that's a type of nature. That's a tree-like, kind of a tree-like beings. They have the ability, and it's what Enisi is. They have the ability to plant thoughts in the minds of humans, and to get them to do whatever they need to do, or give them an idea or whatever, or sometimes to help them. So if they feel like the human is worthy, then they will plant a thought in their mind to help them, or for the humans to actually help the plant-like being. So, and then there's the gifted green soul, and they can actually have telepathic communication back and forth with these plant-like creatures, which look like trees and plants to us. But so that's a green soul and a gifted green soul. And so, and it's like, regardless, you have to be chosen. You have to be a chosen one by the plant-like creatures, beings, to be a green soul. Absolutely. I thought that was just so neat, the way, you're first introduced to the fact that Rhea is a gifted green soul, the way the land just kind of moved out of the way for her as she walked. I just thought that was so cool. Yeah, that I really like that. Yes. Now, the men in You're a green soul. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I need to be a gifted green soul, though. I need the telepathy. Okay. We're working on that. I need that part, but I definitely would consider, okay, I'm a green soul. There you go. I'm honored. Now, the men in this book, they kind of play a supporting role. Yes. While the women are the backbone of the story. Absolutely. And the women in this book they don't make decisions based around their relationships with men. They kind of do what they want to do, and their men have to just fall in line and accept it. So tell me more about the decision to make the men more of the supporting role instead of the primary role. Well, it is definitely a woman-centric book. I always knew that's what it's going to be. But I really wanted to show supportive, strong men. Because, Josiah, Rhea's father, Kella's husband, and his father, Emmett, they are very strong men. I mean, they're running, they work the land and they've done the business and they are definitely providing for their family. But the women are and they're able to love. I wanted to show men that are able to love and be with women who are independent and, who are strong. So that's where that kind of came from. In my family, the women are strong. And my father is definitely a strong, very, very strong, but he definitely is able to allow for the women in the family to be strong and to honor that and have no issues with it. He has no ego, around that. So that's kind of what I grew up with. And my grandmother was very strong. Both my grandmothers were very strong like that. So, and Enisi is a male energy. So, and, he's a major focus of the story. So that's, that's enough. That's a lot of male energy right there.
Right. Because Enisi's some big energy.
Enisi's some big energy. And, I've had some people actually say they thought he was female, but I go ahead and let them know when I was writing Enisi, he is male. He was a male.
I never got that. I always got male energy from Enisi.
Okay, right. But I don't have an issue, but to me, I was like, oh, when I wrote him, he's definitely a male energy. So that's kind of where I was, but I definitely wanted men in the story. I didn't want a story without men, but I just wanted to show men in a very supportive role. Yes.
They definitely did not stand in the way of the women doing what they needed to do. And that was always, I just liked the way that the characters, the women just were like, this is what I'm doing. This is, this is what I need to do. And they let them do it. And they didn't give them a whole lot of struggle about it. It was just like, okay, this is what needs to be done.
Not a whole lot of struggle, too, also because they were busy doing their thing.
Right.
So they weren't insecure about their women. And so since they were busy doing their thing, and also, with the ancestor, Avery realized that, he wouldn't be where he was without the women. So
right.
He kind of realized that. But as long as he was able to do his thing, he was, and he was really able to do his thing.
With Sue and Ife.
He's a bad boy. And so he's really doing his thing, living his best life. And then, with Josiah, Josiah was all about his work. He's a workaholic. And so, he was pretty much all right. Wife, check. She loved the land. She loved the land as much as me. Okay, that's what's most important.
That's all. That's all that matters. Anything else is just
right.
Extra.
And so then, he kind of had a little push when when Kella decided she was going to go to college. Right. And I get a lot of flack from that from my readers. They don't like Kella. But, I fight for Kella because I'm like, this is how, as African American women, this is one of the ways that we've been able to advance. Like we have to have that strong family support and then be able to take that leap. I at first I was upset because Kella kind of went. She's like, look, I'm going to school. Y'all can take care to baby. I'm going to come back when I can, but I'm doing this thing, and she's just like, get on board because it's happening, and her husband was like, do you have to go so far? And she was like, this is where I need to be. But at the same time, knowing what I know about, there are women in my life who definitely put things on hold when they had kids. And they never got back to what it was that they put on hold. So, although I was conflicted with Kella, I can understand why she needed to do it. Because if she didn't do it at that point in her life, would she really have gone back to it when Rhea grew up and was out on her own? Would she really have circled back around and said, okay, now I'm going to do my thing? Because a lot of women don't. A lot of women don't. And they had the matriarch in the family, Lilith, who clearly was like, I can take care of the kids. And when I was growing up, my mom was in school. And then my grandmother was a major caretaker in our lives. Like, my grandmother picked us up from school, and my mom would come get us in the evenings. We could stay at my grandmom's house if we wanted to. We were always there on the weekends. So my grandmother was very much there when my mom decided to go back to school. You know, she wouldn't have been able to do it without the support of my grandmother really stepping in like a second mother.
And let's talk about Lilith, because she was a powerhouse. And she kind of represents, for lack of a better term, she reminds me of the Mammy role on the plantation. And a lot of people, when you say Mammy, a lot of negative connotations come up. We think about slavery. We think about the black woman with the red rag on her head.
Right.
And we think about this kind of, I don't know nothing about birthing no babies crap that, the Gone with the Wind put in our heads. But really, the Mammy she was the glue that held that plantation together, that held the family, her own family together, and the white families together.
Exactly.
She knew how to do everything. She knew how to birth babies. She knew how to cook. She knew how to sew. There pretty much wasn't anything that she didn't know how to do.
Right.
And that was Lilith to me.
Yes, that is Lilith.
And nothing was done in Bountiful without her approval.
No. And I named Bountiful like what was Gone with the Wind's house called?
Oh gosh, I can't even remember.
I'm naming their house too. Their house,
right? Right.
I got a house too.
That's right. That's right.
Nothing was done in Bountiful, and she was the glue, and she the only thing I said, I'm going to break a stereotype. I made sure to describe her as a slim woman, and that she had some, as far as their diet and whatnot, she kind of had some, she did care about what she fed her family, Yes. And so, but yeah, that is absolutely a good comparison, not the stereotype, but the reality of what Mammy was to the household and to the whole plantation. And pretty much that's what Lilith is, in the modern day of the Blue family. That's what she is, the glue. Like, she can check everybody, including Enisi.
Because she told Enisi, I will chop you down. I don't play with me. And I think Enisi was like, well, damn, let me just, I don't want to mess with Lilith.
Because but he loved his family, and so he wasn't trying to be, he loved his blues. That was his family, and that was innately he was to take care of his family. So he could only do so much,
right?
He couldn't have Lilith read the whole family mad at him,
right?
And the thing about the men too, I wanted to make sure that people kind of knew that the men, they were busy because. And I kind of think men can do this, and be mad at me, whoever. But, the men continuously kind of ignored the power of the land. They worked that land. The Blue men loved the land for working it and what it gave them, their crops, their livelihood, their business. But they really were not into the mysticism or the magic of the land. They really, even one of the characters who was a green soul, one of the men who definitely was a green soul,
Josiah.
Johnny was a green soul.
right.
Johnny Hicks was a green soul. Her grandfather on her mother's side was a green soul, but he kind of he kind of had.
He was like, he always blew it off like it wasn't real. I'm like, come on now, man.
No, in Goodwill, he was a green soul.
Right.
And Josiah was not a green soul. And, he was just, they kind of, they were always just kind of like so caught up. Avery, all the way back to in the 1800s, Avery, ancestor, grandfather Avery was also the same way. They kind of always just kind of trying to pretend like that tree did not move out the way when you walked.
Or like he didn't just make a whole bunch of blooms just happen at one time.
Like you didn't see it. They was like, oh,
yeah. Or like when Enisi would pick, put somebody on the branch and raise them up. Like, come on now, I know you see that. Don't
The men kind of
play
just act
me.
like they just kind of ignore it.
Right. What are you doing? What are you doing? You know, they're men. I guess they just don't believe in it.
They were focused on other things, you know.
Yeah, but I'm just like, do you really think that land, when that land was bought, that, you know, the man said, you're taking it off my hands if you buy it because it's garbage, it's an eyesore. Now, do you really think that land was going to produce all that stuff for you just out of, you know, coincidence? No, that land is living.
That land is alive.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Like, why do you not get that? Come on now.
So I did kind of give the men that role. I did.
Now, I am mad at you, though.
Or you always be mad at us for something. So
Yeah.
I knew mine was coming.
Rhea and is it Gawani?
Gawani,
Gawani, why you do that? I needed that, and this is the one spoiler I'm gonna give. You broke my babies up. Why'd you do that?
all right. That is the one part in the book that kind of is from my own personal life. It happens just about like that. So those things, I'm not dumb. It kind of happens. Gawani was the one. And so I was just bringing, that was a little reality check. That was a little reality check from my readers. Just like, maybe, you know, this is the first book. You never know. But
I was so hurt. His uncle said no, and he just was like, cut it off. Just left.
that can happen. That can happen, Audra.
But it's a book. We're supposed to be happy.
Well, you saw Rhea blew that off like nothing.
She was hurt, though. She hung her little head and was like, she was hurt from it.
Shay knew it.
Mm-hmm. Because Shay knows her like the back. Shay knows her better than she knows herself.
Shay knows her better than she knows herself. Shay, she was hurt. Of course she was hurt. But, you know, I couldn't let y'all have it.
Mean.
This is mean. The first book. Who knows? But in this one, I wasn't ready for Rhea to be all over heels in love, ready to get married. Not yet.
Yeah, she didn't have to be all ready to get married, but you could have just let them explore, ma'am.
I did. Didn't they kissed each other?
Tracie.
And that's not a spoiler.
Tracie. That kissing, that I needed more from that relationship than that. Come on now.
You notice I was very careful with the relationships that the stuff I did with my teenagers. With my adults,
yes,
you know, they did some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My adults did some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of I just kind of laid a little low with my teenagers, you know.
Maybe with Rhea, but not with Shay.
No, Shay, we're not gonna, yeah.
I'm not even gonna say what happened, but poor Shay.
But
poor Shay.
That was a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, for me, for that, what allowed me to go there was I did just kind of research and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I gave her closure, and that's all I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. Not that is going to, not to say in any form or fashion that means that, okay, it's fine now. Mm-hmm. But I kind of, you know, tried to put some things in there that will allow for her to go to another level. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and I know you didn't put races in here, but Frank was white.
Oh.
Whether you say he's white or not, Frank was white. And there's a parallel there from things that used to happen that, I can't stand him. He was white.
Let's just say this. The things that he was able to get away with, most certainly, I felt like that is what, you know, that's some white privilege. That's some white privilege.
And you wasn't fooling nobody either, ma'am, with your references to music. with the elements and Raja. Come on. Prince and Earth, Wind, and Fire. You ain't playing with nobody in this book. I was like, she tried to be.
For our generation, I knew y'all know everything, but I thought, okay, for my Gen Zers if I have some Gen Zers that happen to read the book, they can create what they want out of those characters. But for my millennials and my Gen Xers and my baby boomers, they knew all about.
And Cyndi Lauper too. I caught that one too. I was like, what is she doing?
I kept going back and forth, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it this way so that when the movie's made,
right,
they can just go crazy as they want with these characters,
right,
aspect of it. But yeah, I knew I definitely wanted. I'm glad. I want my people, my generation, to catch all of this.
Oh, I caught it. I was like, who's she trying to fool?
Music, it just brings back all of our music, and
right.
There's no magic without music.
Gotta have the music.
Yeah,
gotta have the music. Yes, ma'am. So you are self-published.
Yes, ma'am.
Please tell us why you chose this route.
I did worry because initially when I wrote the book, because I'm a Gen Xer, and that's what we kind of grew up with. I was definitely like, oh, I want my book published the traditional way. And then when self-publishing first came out, there was a lot of, there wasn't a lot of positivity around it, although people were steady getting it with their self-publishing. But by the time I was finished, it took me a while to write the book, years, just because it was an on and off thing, And so when I finished the book, I queried it, and it wasn't ready. But I was thinking, okay, well, at least the story will capture somebody's attention, and then they can help me to get it right. But, I queried, and pretty much I just got that it wasn't a good fit. Pretty much that it wasn't a good fit. It sounded interesting, but it wasn't a good fit. And, the querying process, you have to send them umpteen pages of the book, a synopsis, a query letter. Yes. So, they can get a feel for it.
Right.
But I did have one response from an agent that kind of that was very encouraging. I had two agents that responded with things that were very encouraging. One agent was like, "You've got something here. We're a small agency. We just don't have the time, but you've got something here. Keep going. This is special. Don't give up on it, and just flow with the ups and downs of your process." And so, it was a personal note, and that was very encouraging. And then there was another agent who, I don't know if hers was a personal note, but she ended her letter with, "Hey, if you're not in a critique group, you need to get in one ASAP." And, so I was like, okay, so the advice from those two agents has been, was very helpful. And so when I was ready, though, when I was finally, after I worked with my critique group for about a year, and I got it in the shape that it's in, I edited to death, cut out 70,000 words, because I actually I basically had to just say, all right, I had to bring the book to an end. So I've already started the next book. And I really wanted to follow all the rules as far as making it a certain end, but it ended where it had to end. And so, after doing all that, I said, you know what, I decided to, I looked into Amazon publishing. It's the tools and all the stuff that's out there for self-publishing. It's phenomenal. I mean, it's just miles beyond what it used to be. And if you really have the will, you can publish your work. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to take this leap. My beta readers assured me that, readers are not as harsh as you think. If there's if there's something formatting's not perfect, or a synonym or something was misused or whatever, they're not as hard and as crucial as you think they would be if your story's strong. Right. So I took the leap, and I really am loving the process. It just threw me in the world of readers and writers and book reviewers and Bookstagram, and writers are really cool because, you can't just have one book in the library by one person. So authors seem to be really cool about sharing the space. full of
Yes.
help and suggestions and
Mm-hmm.
sincere, just
Yes.
sincerity in your success. So it's been I've really enjoyed the self-publishing process.
So what does being an indie author mean to you?
Independence, just like that, being able to really explore your creativity to the fullest. Like I loved helping my cover designer, Tanuka Fagwaran. I found her on Instagram. I loved her art. I was like, oh, there's no way though. My niece, who is my ride and fly. I don't like to say ride and dash. We flying together. She was like, why don't you contact her? So I did, and she was wonderful to work with. I mean, she just was every step of the way. She took my ideas. She had ideas. She put a lot of energy into it. So I love that process of it. And also, I really don't mind the marketing part of it. It's just that there's not enough time in the world.
Right.
But that part's fun to me. It is fun to me.
So this artist you worked with, did she make that map that you sent? Okay.
I sent her a little sketch of the map, just kind of for location, for logistics. And then she came back with the map. You want to see it? Y'all want to see it?
Yes, show us the map. It's so beautiful. Yes.
There is Enisi. This is her vision of Enisi.
Yes.
And
I love it.
There's Agaliha.
Okay.
And we can talk about the temples.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the temples were so beautiful. I wanted to talk about them, but then I had to talk. If I had to talk about why they were created, then
they're just beautiful. We'll just say that. And they're
beautiful temples that were created for healing purposes, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Leaving it healing purposes, that kind of healing purposes and love. But so she helped. She definitely created the map as well. She was just wonderful to work with. So meeting people like that has made it that has made it extremely fun. It's fun.
It is fun. The whole process is fun.
Yes, to me, being an indie author is just it's fun. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, because you get to keep control of everything, and you have say in how all the ideas, manifest and what they look like.
I wanted the map. I don't think I was going to Amazon. That's who I'm working with now. I'm sure there are other book companies, other publishing. Self-publishing may do other things, but I don't believe they allow you to print a map on the inside of the book. But as an indie, I've created my own map. And so you get the gift box, you get the map. I wanted that map. That was a part of my dream, and so I was able to make it happen. So who knows what a publishing house may have been like? No, or not. Not in full color, or not by that illustrator. We have somebody else. So.
Exactly.
Just being able to, work with another Black woman who, and she's from the UK. She's Nigerian. She's from the UK, and she's in her 20s. She's younger than. I'm not going to say much, giving away. She's younger than me. So just connecting with other creatives and seeing what they do with your story. I gave her a lot of leeway, we talked, and then she come back with her vision. Yeah, and that's fun.
Absolutely, it is. So, do you have any other projects on the horizon now?
Yep, I'm already working on book 2. I'm planning right now. I have a trilogy in mind, so there's definitely 3 stories to be told. Okay. And so I've already started book 2, and after. One of my favorite places to write is my garden. And so I'm doing some work in my garden right now because I didn't get to work much last year in my garden. And so I'm getting my writing. That's one of my places. I have several places in the house where I like to write. But I'll probably start back writing in April. But I've already started the next book. And,
I need to see Rhea and my man get together. I'm just going to tell you that now.
Okay.
I'm going to put that out there. Just saying.
But we'll see. Because I have one I have like a big picture of where that second book is going, and even where the third book is going.
Okay.
But I don't have an intricate outline, and I pretty much don't write like that with an intricate outline. It's the ideas flow.
You better let him flow back into her life, ma'am. That's all I'm saying. We don't have to depict it as real life. We can have some happily ever afters in here now.
I don't think we put any happily ever.
No, not really. At least not where not. Well, no, I don't want to say that because Josiah and Kella, they're happy and
they are.
Yeah.
Shay kind of has somewhat of a happy ever.
Shay is
happy going forward.
Yeah, she's growing into her happiness as she heals.
Yeah, she's thrown into a happy ever after, or like into her.
I need to see what you're going to do with her mama and in Mexico. Because what happened at the end with the baby?
Did you catch anything? Did you catch that?
With it on the neck? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And only reason I'm talking in codes is because I can't say because I don't want to give away anything.
You caught that?
Yes, ma'am.
Some people caught it, some people didn't. I was like, well, it's there. It's there for you.
I sure enough did. I was sitting there I was like, okay, Tracie, we gonna fight. You just gonna put this little blurb at the end with her mama and this and the baby and the thing on the deck, and then just that's it. We done. Then I just see this picture of you like at the end of the book. I'm like, no, ma'am.
That's me at the end of the book. Next one coming.
So are we gonna see what happens with that whole thing?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Every character. There's no characters in there. I gave you a lot of characters, but I can say that, just in case I have some readers like, it's a lot of characters, but there's your foundation. That's enough for 3 more books. And so, the characters are going places.
Okay.
Yes, the characters are definitely going places, and that's why they're in there.
Yeah, I need to see what happens with Emma and
somebody in my critique group assumed that Emma was black. I was like, now hold up. No. And I made sure. No,
not with blonde hair. No, ma'am.
I don't know if I had put her, I don't know if I had given her hair color by then, but I had to make sure that, I wanted her to be white. I wanted her to be white. And just a different side. She came up in foster care. That's a part, I worked in foster care. That whole, all of that, I just kind of wanted her character to kind of be a different take as well. She's not, which is
probably why she dealt with Frank for as long as she did, because she was looking for
right.
Yeah.
But I wanted all my women, all my women are brilliant, as you can see. Even her, they're all brilliant on purpose.
She doesn't make the best choice, and I think she fell a little hard for. I don't know if I would have fallen for Rob. I think that was his name. I don't know if I would have fallen for him that quickly after what had just happened, but she got on my nerves a little bit.
Yeah, she got on my nerves as well. And but that, that's how she is with men,
Okay. I'm waiting on the other books to see what you do with all of that.
Yes.
And with Carlos too, because Carlos done slipped in there, and he's got some connections to her mama, to Shay's mama, and that's all I can say.
That's all you can say. All of them are definitely going to be in the next book.
Okay. So now, why do you feel it's important for the Black feminist voice to be expressed in science fiction and fantasy and speculative novels?
Because it's a way, it gives us an out to express our voices where it's not always directly coming from us, but it's exactly how we're feeling. And so that's one of the ways, I feel like the feminist voice can come through strong in that way. We can create the woman the women in the book can be strong feminists, or their or the creatures that we create, the characters we create, they can have a feminist voice. It gives us an outlet to come through strong and loud, as loud as we want, with a little bit of protection, for better choice of words. So, but, and I just feel like there's so many. That's one of the things that I loved about coming into the indie world, because in the traditional publishing, you're not seeing us. You're not seeing the sci-fi. There's a couple, but you're not really seeing. When I came into the indie world, to see how many, women of color that are writing sci-fi, fantasy, and speculative, which includes horror and all this different stuff, it's like, oh, I found my home, So, and that, we're very strong. They're writing very strong women. Very strong women, but not women who are like, I don't like men or I hate men. We're strong women. You can be strong. Right. You can be fearless. You can be strong without feeling any kind of guilt. That is, those are these women. Or if they're working to that. They're working through things to get to that point.
Absolutely. So where can readers find your books?
You can find Enisi the Bleu Realm on Amazon. You can get it the Kindle version. You can get the paperback, and then you can go to my website if you want. From my website right now, I'm just selling the book in my book box. So if you go to my website, you want to get the book from me, it comes with the book box. I only have like 8 more to go, 8 more to sell, and I would like to sell those which includes a signed copy of the book. And the signature is very unique because it's my full name signature. I don't sign, like if I'm just signing someone's book that has bought the book, I don't sign full name signature. Only for the books in the gift box. Full name signature, dated with the message and numbered as to what number you got it in out of my first 50 author copies. So that's the significance there. So, you can definitely get the book and the book box from my website. At the bottom of each page, it's the contact information. Pretty much just, text me, or you can DM me or message me through social media I'm usually on Instagram, but I'm on all social media at Tracie Angela Greene on everything. Everything is at Tracie Angela Greene.
And Tracie is spelled Tracie, and Greene is Greene.
Yes. So. Yes. So, so that's how you can get the book. And then at some point, I'll probably just be selling the individual book from my website. And I'm going to do, I'm leaning very close to doing a Patreon page where I read the novel. Okay. So I want to get some audio out there. I want to get an audio out there, and I'm trying to do it in the most economical way. One of the great things about being an indie writer is you can spend as much or as little money as you choose. You don't have to let budget doesn't have to hold you back. There's so many tools and things out here where they take the payment from the sales, so you can get going. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe this is a way for me to get the audio out. Let's do a Patreon. So I'm leaning towards that, so that those who can't, because that's one of the things I learned, is that it takes time to read, sit down and read.
Yep, it does.
You can't read and drive at the same time. You can't read and walk. And so.
Absolutely. And what is your website? Because I don't think you said you had a website, but I don't think you mentioned it.
Yes, it's TracieAngelaGreene.com.
Okay. And again, y'all, that's Tracie, and then Greene is Greene. So make sure you spell that right.
Angela is spelled the normal way.
Yes, Angela is spelled the normal way.
One word, Tracie Angela Greene.
Yes, ma'am. Well, we have come to the end of our show, Miss Tracie, and I want to thank you so much for sharing your time and talents here with us today.
Audrey, this has just been so fun, so amazing. And, I love the show. I've listened to a lot of the other authors. I learned so much. And you're such a great host, so thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. And I'm so glad you were here with me today. Enisi, the Bleu Realm is a wonderful book. Pick it up. wherever you want. Her website, Amazon. If you want the beautiful map and the book signed with her, because I have number 36 out of 50. So if you want the beautiful map and she throws some other goodies in there too, then buy it from her website, TracieAngelaGreene.com. And you all know how I do at the end of every show. I give you a quote. And today it comes from the late Bell Hooks. And she said, "If we give our children sound self-love, they will be able to deal with whatever life puts before them." Until next time, y'all, you know what to do. Grab a book and read. And I'm out.
Bye.
Thanks for lending me your ear today. If you enjoyed this content, please head over to betweenthereads.com and leave a rating for the show. While you're there, consider supporting this independent podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/betweenthereads. Join us next week for another great episode.